Hello. In this video we are going to look at factoring with a greatest common factor and look at factoring a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. So our first example we have is 18x to the 8th y plus 45x to the 7th y cubed plus 63x to the 4th y squared. When we are factoring, we always want to look at our greatest common factor. Here we have three terms, so we're looking at the three pieces. And I'm going to focus just on our coefficients first. So we've got 18, 45, and 63. Our greatest common factor with a coefficient is going to be the biggest number that goes into all of the values. We do see that 3 goes into all of these, but 3 is not the biggest number. 9 would be the biggest number that goes into 18, 45, and 63. So we're going to factor out a 9 as far as our coefficient. Now let's look at our x's. When we have variables raised to a power, our GCF is going to be the smallest power we see. If a particular variable does not show up in a term, for example, if we didn't have an x to the 4th in this last term, then we could think of that as x to the 0 would be, and so 0 would be the smallest power. But x to the 8th, x to the 7th, and x to the 4th, those are all positive numbers, and so the smallest of those powers is x to the 4th. So that's going to be what we're going to pull out for our GCF. Do the same thing for our y values. We've got a y, there's an understood 1 on that y. We've got a y cubed in the middle, and we've got a y squared on the end. And so the smallest power we see there is that 1 on that first term. So y to the first is going to be our GCF for our y's. Now, what we're going to do now, we're multiplying 9x to the 4th y by our polynomials. So if we multiply it, we need to divide by it. And so we're going to divide each of those terms by the GCF that we pulled out. Now we're going to have to remember our exponent rules. When we have a power divided by a power, we're going to subtract those exponents. So our GCF of 9x to the 4th y is going to be out front. And then if we simplify inside the brackets here, 18 divided by 9 is going to give us a 2. X to the 8th divided by x to the 4th, that's a power divided by a power, so we're going to subtract those. 8 minus 4 is going to give us a power of 4 on our x's. And then y to the 1st divided by y to the 1st, those have the same power, so when we subtract, that's going to be y to the 0 or just a 1. So it's going to, some people say it cancels out. For our middle term, we have 45 over 9. 45 divided by 9 is 5. X to the 7th over x to the 4th, when we subtract those powers, we're going to be left with x cubed. And then y cubed divided by y, we're going to subtract those powers. 3 minus 1 is 2. 63 divided by 9 is 7. X to the 4th divided by x to the 4th, 4 minus 4 is 0, so that's going to be x to the 0, or just 1. And then y squared divided by y is y to the 1st. And what we see inside the parentheses is there are no longer any common factors other than 1 between those three terms. All right, our next example we're going to look at is 8m cubed minus 24m squared minus 3,344m. So that number at the end there is pretty big, and I picked this one so I can show you how you can use your calculator to help this out. 8, 24, and 3344. Well, I'm not as familiar with the factors of 3,344, but I know that 8 and 24 are both divisible by 8. So let's use our calculator to see if 3344 is divisible by 8. So 3344 divided by 8 is a whole number. It is 418. So that means we can factor out a GCF of 8 with our coefficients. We have an m cubed, m squared, and m to the first. So our smallest power of m that we can pull out is m to the first. And then we can do the same thing we did on the last one. 8m cubed divided by 8m. The 8's are going to completely divide out. M cubed divided by m is going to be m squared. Negative 24m squared divided by 8m is going to give us a negative 3m. And then negative 3344, we just saw on the calculator that that is going to be 418. So since this is negative and this one's a positive, we'll have a negative there. And then m to the first divided by m to the first is just 1. All right, so now we want to look at this trinomial inside, m squared minus 3m minus 418. We don't have any greatest common factors there, but we do have a trinomial that there's a pretty good chance that's going to factor. But again, I'm not as familiar with the factors of 418, and so we can use our calculator to help us out on this. If we go to our y equals menu and put in that number, negative 418 divided by, and then use the X button that's right next to the alpha. And then we want to look at our table. So second graph, and what we see here are these are numbers that multiply together and give us 418. We need to find the one that when we add them together, we get negative 3. Well, these are all way too far apart for us to get negative 3, so let's scroll down here just a little ways. Okay, these are starting to get a little closer together. I do want an integer, so I'm looking for whole numbers. So I do see that we've got 19 and negative 22. Since these are across from each other, that means that they multiply together and give us negative 418. But if we add them, we get negative 3. So that is giving us the factors that we're looking for here. You can also use this same technique if you're trying to simplify a square root function, or you're trying to anything where you're having factors, where you're looking for factors of a number. So the factors we want are 19 and negative 22. Since this does have a 1 out front, those are going to be the factors that we're looking for in our parentheses. It's going to be m with a positive 19 and m with a negative 22. And it doesn't matter what order you write them in, as long as you've got the positive with the 19 and the negative with the 22. All right, I'll see you guys next time.